Hi everybody, welcome to EcoDriver. My name is Helmut. Today we go out on the EcoDriver loop with the BMW iX40. That's the brand new battery electric vehicle from BMW. And we have the model with the 240 kilowatt system power output. That's the weaker model. It's 326 horsepower. This model has the 71 kilowatt hour battery, and WLTP consumption is rated with 19.4 to 22.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Unladen weight is 5,203 pounds, and that's basically it when it comes to the technical details. The route we're doing, I show you here, in case you have never been on my channel before. We start in the southern outskirts of Innsbruck, go out of town in a 30 kilometer per hour zone for about a kilometer or just a mile, 1.5 kilometers. Then we start the ascent, which elevates us around 360 meters, 1,100 feet, followed by rolling hills, a descent, which brings us back to starting altitude. Then we have a mixed road with speeds between 20 and 60 miles per hour, 30 to 100 kilometers per hour, through some villages, small towns, before we hit the motorway. Then some city traffic, 18 kilometers, 11.5 miles, and then we finish our trip. After every section, we analyze the overall and sectoral consumption. And at the end, we analyze the data. The cameras will be on all the time. A, to show how I am driving in order to achieve the consumption that we will have at the end. And B, to prove that there is no need to go extra slow in order to be efficient. Talking about this car, yes, I'm in this car now for 3 kilometers, so I didn't really familiarize myself with all the specs and details. The most important thing for me is how I reset the board computer, the odometer. And we have adaptive recuperation, adaptive regeneration with this car. I'm normally not a fan of these systems. However, I will use it for the moment, as there is no other way to have the car coasting. As you probably know, I'm a fan of coasting in order to achieve the best possible consumption. And you only can reduce so if you turn off the adaptive regeneration, you cannot completely turn off regen when you lift your foot off the gas, off the accelerator. So I try this. It's a system that brakes the car when the car realizes it might make sense to brake. For example, when approaching a roundabout or a turn or a red signal or slower traffic ahead of us. And therefore, it takes a little bit of the driving out of my hand. But as I said, I prefer coasting as much as possible, and those systems normally brake too much. You can overrule the auto regen by just stepping on the gas pedal or accelerator, and I will try this. I'll see how it works, and I hope you enjoy this, and I'll talk to you later. So we're coming to the end of the climb, and we see here 47.1 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. We're now approaching the hills, and here it's important to, as I call it, play with the road. It's principle is similar to a roller coaster. If it goes down, build up some speed, some momentum, of course within the legal limits, and use this momentum, this kinetic energy stored in the vehicle, to go into the next flat section or into the next climb. And don't try to maintain the speed at all cost when it goes up. If it's a short climb, just reduce the speed a little bit, and that helps you saving energy. We're now coming to the end of the hills, and we see 33.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. With the adaptive regeneration, there's still some regen, even if you think the vehicle is coasting, and if it's supposed to coast. I'll see how I continue with this system, but that's not a BMW specific setting. That's with almost all auto regen systems I have tested so far. Don't get me wrong, it's a great feature for safety and comfort, but if you want to drive really efficiently, it's not perfect. We're now approaching the descent, and here it's important to try to avoid the use of additional energy. Just make use of what Mother Nature gives you, and that's gravity. Try to keep the vehicle rolling over some flatter sections. We have 2 of those on the descent, and if we don't have any other slow traffic in front of us, we probably make it over those sections without any additional energy. Yeah, that's interesting. On the way down, I noticed that the brakes, or the regen, is released already at the halfway through a turn, through a hairpin turn. Whereas with all the other systems I've tested so far, the brakes were active way too long, and you lost a lot of momentum out of those turns. We are now at the end of the descent, and we have 16.0 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Yeah, that's better than expected, considering the weight of this car, almost 2.4 tons. That's rather impressive so far. We're now coming on to the mixed roads section. We go through some villages and towns, speeds between 30 and 100 kilometers an hour, and let's hope that we don't have some slow cars in front of us, or as we had last couple of times, some marking works. So they were painting the zebra crossings and lines, and we had to stop quite often. At higher speeds, I've noticed that the regen really turns off completely when you lift the foot off the accelerator. We're now approaching the motorway, and at the end of the open road section here, we see 14.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Less than 15 kilowatt hours, that's better than expected. We're now approaching the motorway, and there is a general restriction to 100 kilometers an hour. However, battery and fuel cell electric vehicles are exempt from this, so we could go faster. We won't do it as, firstly, for comparison reasons. I've done all the tests with around 100 kilometers an hour, and secondly, normally on this section of the road the traffic is so heavy that it doesn't make sense to go faster. But even if we could, I stick to the 100 or 105 to 105. At the end of the motorway, we see 16.0 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. We're now coming to the city section, and yes, we have an electric vehicle, we recuperate energy, we regenerate energy, but as we only regenerate around 40 to 50% of the energy used from the battery back into the battery, there are some losses, the tires, wind resistance, mechanical resistance, and so on. It's always better to try to avoid braking, to drive in a way that allows you to avoid a braking, because it's a loss of energy. And therefore, drive with good foresight, read the road, try to anticipate what other road users might be doing, and therefore avoid stepping on the brake. Well, we are now at the end of our trip with the BMW iX, and the board computer says 15.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. And now let's have a look at the details. Well, now let's have a look at the detailed sectoral and overall consumption of our trip with the BMW iX. Yeah, you see here the details, hopefully in your language too. If you look at this, there's nothing that I'd say stands out. Overall, this leads to a consumption of 15.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. And if you look at this table, where we have a more detailed overview of all the EVs I've tested so far, we see the column on the far right. The cars are in order of the weight-specific consumption. That's kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers per 100 kilograms of weight, as the weight is the constant factor that affects the consumption the most aside of the driver. And there are, of course, there are other factors, but they are not constant, they're not permanent, like weather, like temperature, like road conditions, and so on. So here we see that the iX is, I would say, just at the end of the top tier of most efficient vehicles. 0.668 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers per 100 kilograms of weight. If we look at the downhill consumption, weight-specific downhill consumption, it seems that it's one of the better recuperators. There are not many better than that, with minus 0.981. And on the uphill, it's, I would say it's average. In general, I have to say, and I say this in most of my videos, and you'll probably get tired of it when you see my videos, the car gives you the opportunity to drive with a certain efficiency, with a certain consumption. And 15.8 is, yes, I mean, if you are on the motorway every day and for 1,000 kilometers a week, then you probably won't have this consumption, or you surely won't have this consumption. As you see here, 18.6 on the motorway, and this with only 100 kilometers per hour. But this is a combined consumption, everyday use, and if you are driving only certain parts of what I do, for example, if you only drive on the motorway, only drive city, then you see the specific consumption here. Yeah, the car gives you the opportunity, but in the end it's down to the driver, and the driver has it in his hands or in his foot how much he consumes, how much money he spends, how much energy he uses. And in times like this, I think thinking about how much energy we need, how much energy we use, should be considered, as we live in times where providing energy isn't the easiest task. And even if the energy for your electric vehicle comes off the wall box, it must come from somewhere into the wall box, and there we have a problem. And I think we will run into bigger problems in the future. So and by the way, that's the main purpose why I started this channel. I want to show how to drive with less energy, no matter what kind of car you drive, how big the car is, how small the car is, how efficient the car is per se. At the end, it's down to the driver. If you want to know how to drive EVs more efficiently in general, I've put a link with my video and 5 tips how to do so up here. And down here you'll find the playlist with all the videos of my tests I have done with electric vehicles so far. That's it for the BMW iX. Thanks for watching. Take care. See you next time.